Up for today's gear review is a 1980-ish, excuse me, Denon DP60L, and this one has been a long time coming. This was, this particular turntable, I believe this was DP60L number 2, I think. I don't know, I did a service or repair video on a couple of Denon DP60Ls. I had 2 at one point in time. One of them I got all sorted out, the other one I did not. I believe this was the one that I know this is the one that I got sorted out because this is the one that I kept. But this has been kind of tucked away in the closet, and it's just not right to do that. This is probably, of all of the turntables I have, at least, you know, as far as direct drive turntables, my favorite one. So why do I have it tucked away in my closet? And I'm kind of weird in that I have different vintage systems in my house. I've got like an 80s vintage system in the basement. I got the Macintosh and a Kai, you know, reel-to-reel. And right now I'm running a great turntable. It's an AR EB1 turntable, but it just, and it's from the 80s, and it just doesn't really fit the motif, right? This is at least aesthetically, this appears to be a higher end turntable, so I'm going to put this table with my Macintosh and run it down there in the basement. Well, not run it down here, I guess, because I'm in the basement. Run it down in the basement for a while. As far as I could tell, these were manufactured and sold around 1980. It's auto lift, so it's not full auto. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's not full auto, it's auto lift, it's quartz lock, direct drive, big, tall, right, big plinth, Denon turntable. I believe this is rosewood. It's a rosewood veneer on here, if I remember correctly. Series information, my note, I put limited run because I only found this, I only found 1 year associated with the Denon DP60L. There's a website that's like a Denon history website, and then I found a couple of product catalogs from 1980 where this was, or some product catalogs from 78, 79, 80, and 81, and I only found this in the 1980 catalog, so I'm not sure how many years they actually sold it. So Denon turntables, to sort out what was top of the line and what was not top of the line is a little bit difficult. So in my notes I put that this was top of the line in 1980, but I'm gonna explain why that wasn't the case as well. So what Denon was doing, you know, starting in the early 70s, like one of the first Denon turntable motors that they sold was the I think the DP3000, or there may have even been one before that. I didn't go back that far into Denon's history. I do have another interesting Denon turntable though that I'm going to be doing a review on, so keep that in mind when this one's released. It should be released right after this one. But anyway, so you had let's say complete turntables that were being sold. So for the complete turntables, where the turntable itself was given the model number. So this is a DP60L, and it came with, you know, the DP 60 motor, I guess is what it is. Yeah, DP60L is the way the motor is badged. It came with a plinth and the motor and one of 2 or potentially 2 tone arms, and I'll explain that when I talk about the functions of this. But you had everything. You weren't piecemealing things. Of the complete turntables that I found in the product catalogs that I could source on the internet, you had the DP60L, the 55K, the 33F, and the 30L. Now with Denon turntables, and I don't know what K is yet. I haven't looked that up. If I find it when I go to edit this video, or when I find it, I'll let you know. But the lettering on the model numbers that I'm familiar with is M, L, and F. So if this were a 60M, that's a 60 motor and a manual tone arm. I don't know if they had a 60, I don't think they had a 60F, but like in the 33F, that is fully automatic. So that's, you just hit start and the tone arm moves over, and then at the end of the record, it comes back. And then you had L's. So L was auto lift and then shut off at the end of the record. K I'm not familiar with. I just saw 55K for the first time this morning, so I have no idea what K is. Again, if I find that, I'll put it out here. But what I'm used to is L, M, and F, right? The reason why I said this was top of the line-ish, or maybe wasn't top of the line, or you know, depending upon how you look at it, what Denon was doing at the time, when you ordered a turntable, you could order a particular motor, a particular tone arm, a particular head shell, a particular cartridge, and a particular plinth. So you had a couple of different options. You had a few motors, like the top of the line motor for this year was the DP80. And I think they sold the DP72 at the same time. I looked this morning, but I really wasn't paying attention to the motors. You had a couple of different flavors of tone arms that you could pick. You had several different cartridges that you could pick, and then you had some plinths that you could pick, and you had some head shells that you could pick. Right? So you had all of these different parts that you could kind of assemble into a turntable. Some of those turntables I've seen with designations. Others I've only seen them at least advertised, like for sale on eBay, by what the motor was. So if you go to eBay and you find a DP80, it's, you know, you could find 5 DP80s and they could have different plinths, and they could have different tone arms, and they could have different head shells, and they could have different cartridges. Right, but they would all be called DP80s, so it's kind of hard to kind of figure out, you know, what truly was top of the line. Well, I would say the most expensive plinth, the most expensive tone arm, the most expensive motor, and the most expensive cartridge. But what you would call that, I don't know. So the DP60L was one of these all complete turntables, and it was top of the line, you know, for that category, I should say. So getting into the functions on this, and you know, this is mine, so I will share. I do have a Shure XV15, or a Shure V15, I think Type 5. It's got a VN5 XMR GECO stylus. I actually spent quite a bit of money on that cartridge and the stylus upgrade on it. So you know, because I just love this turntable. I think it's beautiful. I don't know why I haven't been using it. I have no idea. But it's just it's a work of art. And to be honest with you, I got another Denon turntable I'm going to be reviewing, as I mentioned earlier, that got me to kind of thinking, like, you should really listen to that Denon. So aesthetics, I think it's drop dead gorgeous. I like the control light colors on this, at least the panel colors, more than other models. So let me explain that. So this is like a UFO kind of type, you know, look to the motor. And what's weird is Denon had that in the early 70s, and I never knew that. But the lights here, the panels are neutral. Basically, you have like an amber, and then you have green when it's operating in 33 or 45. Some of the later models, the panels were different colors, so you had like a green panel and an orange panel, and I don't like that. I like it being neutral when it's off, but that's just an aesthetic thing for me. So I appreciate that with this one. You don't have the crazy green and orange panels. And again, it's not a huge thing, right? But I just prefer it to be neutral like this. Operation is super easy on this, right? The functions are on off, right? Stop, 33. You have a little strobe light here, although it is quartz lock. 33, 45. You have an arm lifter up or down. And again, what this turntable will do is at the end of the record, the tone arm just lifts up. Again, you can look down in there and you can see that it's locked on at 33 1/3. Hit stop, and then it turns itself off, and then the tone arm comes up, and it's really nice, right? You have to be deliberate when you put the tone arm down, but then at the end of the record, it shuts itself off and it lifts the tone arm to protect the stylus, the record, and all that stuff. So I like that. I really like that on this one. The other thing that I really like about this, and I'm going to probably slide into the frame here, is it has a tone arm that you can swap. So if you are running a lighter or a higher compliance cartridge on a lower mass tone arm, so if I got it right, this straight tone arm is a low compliance tone arm, so it's a lightweight tone arm, and I may have this reversed. So you need a high compliance cartridge, right? One that will run a little bit. Did I get that right? Yeah. So low mass tone arm, high compliance cartridge, and these will track a little bit lighter. But you can easily swap out an S tube to run a heavier, right? So for this high mass tone arm, you can run a low compliance cartridge and track it a little bit heavier. Now it's the tone arm plus the counterweight, and it's really easy. There's a screw up here. You just unscrew it, you slide this out, you slide this in, you swap out the weights at the end. I believe you have to swap out the weights. I think. It probably depends on the tracking force, but I would think if this is a heavier tone arm that you would have to change the counterweight, but I really don't know. So that is really cool. So you have some, you have, if you have one of these tone arms, you have the ability to swap that out. Sorry, I just want to put this back the way it was. The other controls are pretty easy. So naturally you have tone arm up or down. You've got the VTF tracking. This does have VTA. There are adjustment screws in the back, and then it has anti-skate. Yeah, I think that is it for this one. I didn't do a very good job cleaning this up. I just basically wiped it down with a microfiber cloth. I need to do a little polishing on it. So using this is super simple. I mean, it's you can't get really easier than that. It doesn't have the bio tracker tracer tone arm where you got to set the tracking in some weird, ritualistic manner. So I think it's just really, really, really easy to use. Serviceability, this is a nightmare. It's not for the faint of heart, right? It's a direct drive turntable, which poses, challenges when you're talking about repairability or serviceability. It's also quartz lock, so that adds a layer of complexity to it. If you were to repair one of these, you really need to understand how it works, and I kind of understand how it works, and if you watch the other service videos, you can see me fumbling through the repair on these. There's not a lot of corporate knowledge out there, at least for very specific issues. There's Captain Mark 09 on YouTube, and he's like a pro at servicing these and recapping these and refurbishing these and selling these. I think I don't know that he's doing them anymore. And he was also a member of like Vinyl Engine. So there are nuggets, of information out there, but I don't know that he's active in helping people sort these out today. So you just have to be ready. You have to have a scope at a minimum to adjust the speed. You have to understand how the tone arm controls work and the LEDs involved. And then you've got integrated circuits that can, just kind of get flaky on you. And this isn't one of those where it's like, oh, a new belt and we're good. Or, hey, I can just recap it and it's going to work just fine. No. It takes quite a bit of work. And it requires quite a bit of maintenance. It could require quite a bit of maintenance if something, kind of gets goofy on it. Now, I don't do like Captain Mark. I don't, take the tone arm apart and service the bearings and any of that stuff. But, that's kind of a pain in the neck procedure on any turntable. So that's not unique to the Denon. So, if you pick one of these up and you think you're going to sort it out quickly, you may get lucky. You may be able to recap it and have it, return to its former glory, or you may be in for quite the repair journey. Common issues with these, if you do run into one that's not quite working: speed instability. So that speed instability can be caused by it, I would say most likely the caps drifting out of spec, maybe damaging or a damaged integrated circuit. I don't know how likely it is that these just kind of drift out of adjustment, because there are variable resistors that you can adjust, but I don't know how likely those are to just kind of start to get goofy. So it's not like on other direct drive turntables where you've got some pitch controls and carbon builds up and you just squirt them with some deoxit and then your speed issues are sorted out. It's not the same on these as far as I'm aware, and my limited experience with these. So if you have a speed instability issue, you're in for a repair where you better have an oscilloscope. You better be probably prepared to recap, right? At least the motor control functions, and sort that out. So that's very common on these. Bad capacitors or out of spec capacitors or drifting capacitors, I would say is probably, with any piece of electronic equipment that's 30, almost 40 years old, you're probably going to run into that. Bad integrated circuits. And then the tone arm controls in this, there are LEDs that are used for that. LEDs over time will weaken. So you may have to replace some of those. If you, I had a PSX 65 Sony that I have a repair video on where I just kind of lucked into figuring out what was wrong with that, and I unfortunately don't have that Sony anymore. I just had too many turntables, and it was down between the Denon and the Sony, and this Denon is just better in my opinion, and I think it's easier, marginally easier to sort out issues with this than the Sony. I do have an X65, or I'm sorry, I do have an X75 that I have because it's really not working right. So, and I may pick that up again someday and try to sort it out. There was a series old footage that I released on that one, and it was just a nightmare. And I can listen to it, but anyway, I don't. It's just sitting on a shelf until I build up the courage again to go and tackle that one. So bad LEDs, in the tone arm control. Bad lamps in the either the buttons here or the speed indicator, I guess you want to call it that. So those are all common. Bottom line, if one of these is not working 100%, or if you get one, it probably won't stay working 100%. You're gonna have to be prepared. It's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a nightmare. Things to look for on these. So the big thing is, normally I start off with completeness, but with this, it's all about functionality. I would take one of these that is working, right, in a little bit rougher condition than one that is pristine and not working. And this is one of the few electronic, pieces of electronic gear that I would say that about. So does it work? Does it work? Does it work? Does it work? Does it light up? Are there speed stability issues? Does the tone arm lift at the end of the record, right? Before I get into the minutia of, does it have an S tone arm or a straight tone arm? Or does it have an original, dust cover? Or, is there a scratch on it? That would be the least of my concerns with this. It's all about, does it work? Because those cosmetic things are easier to sort out. This one is not in perfect condition. It's got scratches, and it's not the cleanest example, but it works. It's knock on wood, it works, and it's proven to be fairly reliable after I sorted all the stuff out on it. After that, then you can look at condition. Now this has a J&B Audio aftermarket dust cover. The original dust cover I sold with the other DP60 because that one did not have one. This J&B Audio is very heavy. Luckily, you can adjust the spring tension on the hinges. So, because at first I put this J&B dust cover on it, and it's like, it won't hold itself open. And then I saw the adjustment screws. You want to be careful. You don't want to over adjust and make those too stiff or too light to where it falls down. So you can kind of dial that in. The cosmetic stuff is just basic cosmetic things. Is it beat to hell? Is it scratched? Are there scratches on this? Is this window cracked? This is, you can see where it started to delaminate a little bit, or maybe there's some dirt on the inside of that display. I'm not sure. It's got scratches there, but again, I don't care about that. The dust cover, again, this is aftermarket, beautiful dust cover. I think it presents very well. The original dust covers were smoky, if I remember right. So this is a clear one. I think it gives it a nice look. And then you can worry about not stupid stuff. You can worry about things like the tone arm. Is it S or is it straight, or does it even have one? Some of these are sold for parts without a tone arm. And I was looking for one, and one kind of snuck under my radar because I was looking for one without a tone arm that was working, and one sold, and I just missed it because naturally I have an extra one, so I could slap that on there and have a second turntable. So beyond that, serviceability and then cosmetics. I don't know what else to point out on this as far as things to look for. Oh, feet is the big one. Feet on these, big one. Make sure you get good feet. Price on these. Now this, I overpaid for this. Well, I guess I didn't overpay. This was a part of, I had one too many cocktails. My wife was out of town. I was unsupervised one evening, and I picked up two of these and a Sony the Sony PSX75 off of eBay for like $800 shipped. Now they were from different sellers and all that stuff. But I may have bought the Denons from the same seller. I don't remember. But anyway, so I'm into this for about $250. Now, one Denon I really couldn't get working. I got it to work on 33, and then I sold that off as just, hey, good luck to you with this one. It's working right now, but it may not work forever. The PSX 75, again, that's like at 80%. I can use it, I can listen to it, but it still has some things that I need to sort out. And then we have this one that's functioning perfectly. So, if I average it out across the working turntables, I paid a whole bunch to get one working Denon. But if I average it out across, three where I've already been reimbursed for one, then I'm in it for like $250. At the time, though, these were selling for just ones that were working. This was kind of COVID time, for around $600. Now, prices have come down since then. What I have found, and I'm gonna mention Captain Mark and his refurbished, reconditioned ones. I don't know that I've seen a video where he does a 60L, but if someone were to go in and completely recap this and dial it in and service the tone arm bearings, I could see more than $600. I could see quite a bit more than $600. There's one out on eBay right now for like $1,900, and it doesn't even say it was rebuilt or anything like that. So you can find crazy prices on these. But what I have found for actual sold units that were, I couldn't find one that had recapped or reconditioned or even serviced in the title. And I didn't go through all the descriptions, but there were only like 7 sales in the last 3 months. I would say one like that, beautiful, perfect, been sorted out, recapped, probably $600-700, maybe $800 if you really like it. One that's working, so the sales that I found, the ones that were reported as being working, sold for around $450. Between 4 and 5 is what I saw. And that's for one that's working, that hasn't been sorted out, that is probably in pretty clean condition. So this one, before I recapped it and went through it, had it been working 100%, $400 I think would be a decent price for it, because it is in pretty good shape. And it did come with the 2 tone arms. And then one for parts, like I paid about $250. I would say about $250 is a decent price for one of these. You can get them a little bit cheaper. As of today, there are no for sale parts units on eBay. I think the cheapest one out there now is about $400, and that's for one that's not working, and that's too much. It's too much for one of these, considering the issues you may have to sort out. So so 600 plus, 450 for one that's fairly clean and working, and then 250 for one for parts. I think those are probably reasonable prices, at least as of today. So yeah, Denon DP60L, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I'm gonna put this back into operation, right? I'm gonna finish cleaning it up, polishing it up a little bit, and then I'm going to pull that AR EB1. I'll do a gear review on that shortly too. It's since I'm swapping out some gear, usually around this time of year, and you're seeing this in like 2026, and this is December 2024, right? So usually around this time of year is when I swap stuff out. So, and I guess the dates aren't important, but I usually do that this time of year. So anyway, there you have the Denon DP60L. Great, beautiful turntable. Love it, love it, love it. If you're brave, get one to work on. If not, you just be aware that it may not run flawlessly, unless you pay someone to go in and recap it and do some preventive maintenance on it. So as always, if you like what you see, like it, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.